All right. I'm like, so I'm Casey. Well, I'm Cassandra. I go by Casey. That's my nickname. I'm nervous. Like I'm never nervous, but I'm nervous because I'm just nervous. So, yeah, my drug of choice was and for always ever will be cocaine, and specific crack cocaine. Um, I was born in January 10th of 1986. So today, yes, I celebrate 8 months, and in 1 month from now, I will be turning 35. So that's a huge milestone in my life, not just because I've never been any age before, not because I've just haven't been 35 before, but also because, it's a big milestone for somebody who grew up with a lot of anxiety and depression and worrying and fear, as I'm sure most of us definitely. Oh, I'm turning on my camera. Hi. So yeah, so I was born January 10th, 1986. I was supposed to be born in February. My mom had a C-section though. My heart rate and blood pressure was too low. I joke that when we go to sleep at night, how our heart rate and blood pressure kind of decreases. I was trying to sleep for the last month, and that's why I've been trying to stay awake for my whole life. So that was my joke, because I either slept or did uppers. So yes, so I was born to my mother and my father. My mom and my dad were together for only a few weeks, and they ended up getting married. They tried to elope and it didn't work out, and they had to come back and actually get married. I was conceived the night of their honeymoon. So before I was even born, my mom and my dad had issues, and my parents ended up getting divorced before I was even born. So my dad, I guess he was really into drugs and stuff, and my mom didn't like it. So we were living with my grandmother, and we lived there until I was about 3. My mom worked as a student. Hang on one second. I'm trying to invite somebody to come who actually is part of the Dopey Nation, so hopefully she pops in. But she's the one who actually invited me to Dopey when I first got into recovery 5 months ago. So I have 8 months. I was 3 months clean before I came into my program. So anyways, so yeah, so growing up, I didn't have my dad around. I had one guy, I thought he was my dad, and then my mom was like, no, he's not, but whatever. He used to let me drive in his lap on his little I call it like an 86 Trans Am, but yeah, that's like my dream car. I just want to 86 Trans Am with that black with that gold Falcon on it. I'm like, that's my dream car right there. So yeah, so life was pretty uneventful until I was 5. I just remember always being the kid in class who my teacher would be teaching, and I'd be to the student next to me being do you see this? This is so cool. Look at this. Always distracting. So at an IEP meeting for my school at one point, my teacher told my mom that I wasn't a kid with attention deficit disorder, that I actually was a bad kid from a bad home, and I was going to be nothing but bad. That blossomed my mom's career in social work. She almost has a doctorate in social work, and she works with a lot of crisis kids to keep them where they are. And so that was huge for me, because she didn't want any other parent to feel like she did. She knew that I had mental health issues, and this is 1990, when we knew nothing about attention deficit disorder and depression and stuff like that. So by first grade, I always just felt like the weird kid. I was on a bunch of different medications trying to figure out how to get me stable in my emotions and everything. And I remember they called it PINS. I know that there's a program called PINS now, but they called my drugs just giving me whatever. Eventually they found a right combination by the second grade, I believe it was. And by then, I had already had signs of obsessive compulsive disorder. I was just out of control. I was super impulsive. I remember one day, I'd gotten off the bus for school, and this kid dared me. I lived in an apartment complex, and they had little golf carts that they would drive around. And they would this kid dared me to take the golf cart because they would leave the keys in it, and I was like, okay, got into the golf cart and drove it like 2 feet into a car, like just a parked car in the parking lot. I got into a lot of trouble for it. Later on, like there were a bunch of boys, like as I grew up, like I was always hanging out with the boys and stuff. And they were throwing rocks at a bee's nest at one point, and of course the one rock, and the one time I decided to throw a rock, it doesn't even like hit the bee's nest, hits some woman's car. She happened to be standing in the window watching us do this, took me to court. I'm like all of like 9 years old, suing me, and like it was just awful. Like I was very impulsive. So at 6 years old, my mom got pregnant with my little brother, with a man from upstate New York who he later on did some things to me. So we'll get there. So at 6, my brother was born. At 9, my mom was dating this other gentleman, Mark, who ended up becoming my stepdad. And things were all right, but I didn't really like my stepdad. Like him and I always really fought with each other. I always made it known throughout his whole marriage to my mom that like, you're not my dad. So I was just really like that, the child angst, that teenage angst that we all like had as kids, some of us had. So yeah, so like by the time I turned 11, I lost my virginity, and right shortly before that is when my brother's father had taken pictures of me and his daughter together, and then I lost my virginity, and then on Christmas break, my brother's father actually did molest me. So shortly after that, I told my friends, my friend told their mom told my mom came to me, and at 12 years old, because I just had my birthday, I went to court for this stuff, and realized the detrimental value behind it. This meant like my little brother wasn't going to have his dad because we were going to do the right thing. And I was, and I knew all these things back then at 12, that when I got older, my brother would be like very understanding of that. So by then I had started smoking pot. I think I really, like, at that point I just smoked pot because like the cool kids were doing it. I don't think I really got high. I remember my first time that I did smoke pot and I got so high. I was watching The Professional, and there's this scene that like there's this guy and he comes out and there's like the interrogation light, and this dude comes up from behind him and he's like interrogating him. He's got this knife to his throat from behind him, and then all of a sudden you just see the knife like slowly go away and this guy like disappears. And I just remember being so high. I looked at my friend. I was like, where the fuck did they go? I was like, I have no idea where that guy went. Where did that guy just go? We just like laughed about it. A couple minutes later, like 20 minutes later, my stepdad, who I hated again, had came and knocked on the door, and I had to go home. And I remember I was walking home, like I was almost drunk, one foot in front of the other, super slow, scared shitless. It was the first time I got high, and I got into the house, and I was coming up the stairs, and we had this little landing. And I come up the landing, and I get to the very top of the stairs, and my mom's standing there in between my room and like the top of the stairs. And I remember I just broke down. I started crying. I was scared. I didn't know what was gonna go on. She kind of laughed at me and told me to just go lay down. And I was like, "Are you sure?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "You're sure?" I'm like, "I'm not gonna die." And she's like, "I promise you, you're not gonna die." The hunger that arose in me afterwards, though, like after the next 10 minutes, like I had to like sneak back downstairs, and I was just like rummaging. And to get a better picture, when I was like, this was now probably like 13, I weighed 96 pounds going into my high school year of high school. So smoking weed for me was a benefit because I was on stimulants, which suppressed my appetite very bad. I was like string bean arm, like there was nothing there. Like how I looked in high school was pretty much how I looked when I stopped my addiction. So like, yeah, there was like a huge correlation. I ended up being 106 pounds when I started recovery, and that's really light. I'm 140 pounds comfortable. So yeah, so high school became the stomping grounds where I started kind of standing up for myself. I was always really bullied. And I used to be the kid that you would come home and cry all the time. Like I didn't understand why people didn't like me. I didn't like myself because people didn't like me as well growing up. I think that, really dampened that, like that part inside of me that wanted to love myself, but I couldn't because, people around me don't like me. So that was always a big issue for a long time in my life, actually, until several years ago, actually, that I really care what people around me thought. So high school was, I feel like for me, to me, because it was my life, it was normal for me. I did mediocre in school. I ended up dropping out when I was 17. So what happened is I smoked weed. I had tried like other drugs here and there, like I tried some opium, uh what is it? Yeah, the poppy, whatever the poppy is. I tried that, and it just tasted good. It didn't do anything to me. um I didn't really get into stimulants like snorting them or even taking them. I think I snorted a Ritalin once just to see what would happen. Did not think that it was going to do anything for me. It did. I had me like energy like forever. I definitely loved caffeine as a kid. I always felt really tired. I think it had to do a lot with the depression. So I'm 17. It's my junior year of high school. I just finished up taking a test for my school. Um, I was done. It was about to be summer vacation, and I had these plans to go hang out with a couple dudes I knew to just smoke some weed. And I had a boyfriend at the time, and I had called my boyfriend up and let him know, hey, I'm gonna go hang out with my buddies. We're gonna smoke some weed. And he said that's totally fine. And later on, like an hour later, my friend calls me and says, we can't get the weed. We're going to get a bottle instead. So, I call my boyfriend and I let him know, hey, the plans changed. We're going to get a bottle instead. And I can hear like hesitation in his voice. But I even asked him about it. He's like, I really don't want you to go, but I don't want to damper you from like being like 17, because I'm 17 and he was 19. And I respect like that he wanted me to like live my life. I do wish that night that he had just told me not to go. So that night I got drunk. I had been drinking prior to this, but I'd never been like this drunk. So I ended up blacking out, and it was 13 hours, and I don't remember anything of it really. I remember leaving this kid's house. I remember prior to it, him hitting on me, this kid Evan, and sorry, I just said his name, but it's just his first name. But yeah, so anyway, so like he was hitting on me, and like I just remember him, he has a girlfriend and who is my friend, and I had my boyfriend who I really loved, and I was like, dude, stop it, like you need to get off me, like you have a girlfriend, I know you're a girlfriend. I have a man, I love my man really deeply. And then we like left because I had to go get my brother from school, and that's the last thing I remember. I came to 13 hours later, 5-point restrained with a sheet over my head, screaming at the top of my lungs. I was screaming. I could do nothing but move my eyes, and think. Like, that's it. Like, I had like this control, and that's it. Like, just in the head. And I just remember I was screaming at myself to stop, and I didn't understand what was going on. Like I was pleading with myself, stop, please just stop. Like, why wouldn't you just stop? Realized it was useless, and I closed my eyes again. Um, and went back into like my blackout. Now it could have been 5 hours, it could have been 5 minutes, it could have been, whatever amount of time. But eventually, I felt like I had like that moment again where I was like in my brain. So before I even opened my eyes, because I couldn't hear myself screaming, I made sure to wiggle all my fingers and toes. I like kind of like wiggled in my little restraints to make sure that I had full control over my body. And I did. And the first question I asked the person there was, I just want to know if there's somebody in the room. So I was like, is there somebody in the room with me? And a gentleman responded, yes. I knew where I was. I'm not, seriously, it's not like I knew I was safe because of how I was being restrained. So I knew I was in a hospital. I asked why there was a sheet over my head. That was my second question. He said, because I was trying to bite the orderly. I nodded appropriately. I said, yep, that sounds like exactly like what I just seen. I asked him if he could take the sheet over my head because I'm claustrophobic under sheets. Like, you can put me under a blanket, I'm fine. But a single thin sheet, I have no idea. Like, it just freaks me out entirely. He said if I could just give it a few minutes. I said, of course, because I totally understood where he was coming from, considering the state I had just seen myself in, like however long prior to before. So he pulls it, a couple minutes goes by, whatever, and he pulls the sheet off of me. My mom eventually comes into the room. They tell me I have to wait for the doctor to come and see me. The doctor finally comes in and gives me a breathalyzer. I call it the forever breather because I didn't realize how to do a breathalyzer at 17. So I breathe into this forever breath. And as like, I know like it's getting to the end, like he starts like the doctor's eyes just start getting really big, like staring at me. And like finally I get done and I'm just like, what's wrong? He's like, you blew a 0.13. And I'm like, what does that mean? He's like, you should still be on the gurney kicking and screaming. And like, so I chalk that up to divine intervention or really good like bodily self-control. I don't know what it was. I scared myself so bad that I scared myself to be like, I was standing there sober. Like he did not understand why I didn't even act like I wasn't even slurring my words. I could have done a perfect, like that when they pull you over a field test. I have no idea what the hell you meant pull you over. So yeah, so I went home. I'm sorry, my nose has been terribly running because of the weather changing so much here in Rochester. So I had on the way home. Well, first off, they gave me back my clothes for when I left, and I realized that I had these really awesome pants that I used to wear. They were from Hot Topic because Hot Topic was life back then. Oh, I love Hot Topic. So I had these really awesome jeans that I was wearing when I got my clothes back. I had no shoes. I didn't have my pager, and my mom gave me these like gym shorts. So like all of my mind was just like, okay, where's my pager? Where's my shoes? And where's my pants? Like, where are these? Like everything. So I asked my mom, some questions about everything. She told me she found my pants in the hallway, which I don't understand. When I asked the guy that I was with, he said that I came from the bathroom and had taken my pants off, so he gave me shorts. What I come to find out afterwards through regular sexual health checkups is that he did indeed rape me. And I was so drunk to it because I ended up with HPV, human papillomavirus, and cancer forms. And his girlfriend had already explained to me how she had received cancer like that from him as well. So I knew where like everything had happened, but he still to this day lies about it. It's fine. It's whatever. It's in the past, For me, I've moved forward from that as well. But that night when I was driving home, my mom said, I told my mom I wanted to go to a 12-step program. And so I went to Alcoholics Anonymous, and I was there for 3 years total. I did not stay sober in that. I mean, like I stayed sober for 1 year from 18 to 19. 17, I went in, I got a few months of sobriety. My ex-boyfriend had gotten out of jail. Him and I got back together. We ended up leaving New York and running away I ran away. I was 17. We had gotten together. I was in the program for a couple months. And then he ended up stealing from some liquor store, and then him and his buddy went back the next day to steal from there again, which was completely stupid. I don't know why you go back and hit at the same place twice. But so he goes to the so he comes to my house and he tells me that he needs to get out of New York State. I'm 17 years old. It's September. A couple months before I'm going to turn 18. And I didn't know if I really wanted to go with him. Long story short, I did end up going with him. We ended up being stuck in Rochester, New York for a little bit until we got out of New York and went down to Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania was a very interesting experience. By this point, I really wasn't drinking at all. I definitely did go back to smoking weed. It kept me on a steady course. You know what I mean? Like it never really was an issue. It just helped like any medicine would. And so basically like what happened is we went down there, we ended up getting I'm trying to think. Wow, it's been so long since that happened. We went down to Pennsylvania. We were down there. He ended up. Okay, this is what happened. We ended up sitting at a Walmart for a 24-hour Walmart because it was like one of the first ones down in Pennsylvania. And we were sitting there waiting for this kid to get off of work so we could go and catch a ride with him to the Appalachian Trail because we were going to get on the Appalachian Trail and just keep going south. We did not get that far at all. He then bought a bottle of vodka and sat outside of this 24-hour Walmart and proceeded to drink this entire bottle of vodka and become belligerently drunk. I drank some, like I like a drink, like a shot or two, but like his alcoholism in my eyes was so out of control that like he drank enough for both of us. So the cops ended up showing up, and I was supposed to have this whole fake name because I had like had this other girl's ID because she had stole my ID. And I totally just like flaked on it. And I'm the type of person, like, I'll tell on myself because that's what I do. Like, I will tell on me. Like, so like the cops put me in handcuffs with a questionnaire. I'm like, told them my full name, told them my birthday, asked me if I had warrants. I said, I think I have a bench warrant for my arrest. For us, the night that I blacked out drunk up here, I had caused damage to a cop car. I like tried to kick the cop car door out, and even the ambulance said I was like one of the worst cases they had seen. So yeah, so they put me in the back of the cop car. They put both of us in the same seat of the back car, same back car. Ugh, I can't speak. We were put into the back seat of the same cop car, and which I was like, even again, I'm like, what are these backwoods Pennsylvania cops are putting my aggressive boyfriend who's wasted in the car next to me? Like, he gets in the car and he's like lunging at me, and I'm like, oh my God, we're both handcuffed. He was just being a jerk while we were at the station. It was at one point kind of funny. He had an itch on his nose and he kept like harassing the cop, and he's like, that's how the itch on my nose feels. So that was kind of funny. So at one point, finally, they let me call my mom. Now prior to this, before I had taken off my grandfather, who had been in my life for all 17 years of my life, had been battling from prostate cancer really bad. And I called my mom that day, and she had told me that he had passed away on Labor Day weekend. So yeah, that was kind of hard, but I knew he was at peace and at rest. But that was my first like big death in the family, because we're a pretty small family. It was my aunt, my uncle, my grandma, my grandpa, my stepdad, my brother, and my mom. So like nine of us, like not a big family at all. So yeah, so I came back from down being in Pennsylvania. My mom drove down and got me. I had spent less than 24 hours in a juvenile correction center. It was like mini prison. That's all I know that it was like. I've never been to jail, but God, like, there's somebody out there looking out for me. I've seen the backseat of cop cars like a bunch of dozen times, but jail cells are not where I've ever seen myself. Being in a juvenile correction center was really bad. I did not know why you shouldn't roll up your sleeves, and now I do. If you roll up your sleeves, it means you want to fight somebody. I was not a fighter. I've never been a fighter. I'm a peaceful person. I will chew your ass out, but I will not like fight you with my fists. Like, that's not how I am. So unless you're my boyfriend, and then I will try and fight you, because that's how I am. I just want to fight a man. I don't know what it is. Must be like female angst. I just gotta fight a man. So yeah, so I came back and I went back into the program. I managed to get a year. I was completely abstinent from everything in that year. Coming up to the year, I had 1 year of completely sober from drinking. About 2 months before I started got to that, I started smoking weed again. I just wasn't eating correctly. I wasn't sleeping correctly still. The meds that for my antidepressants just weren't working. They always seemed to upset my stomach. So basically, I felt like I wasn't doing the program for myself anymore. So I told my parents and everybody that I'm just going to leave the program. I'm 19 years old now. I don't ever want to be that drunk like that ever again. And I'm like, so we're just going to say I'm not an alcoholic. And I definitely don't feel like I'm a drug addict. So we're just not going to go. So from 19 to 23, it was very normal for me. I guess if you want to call it normal, I did drugs. I was doing a lot. Like, I'd done mushrooms. I was doing cocaine and drinking. So I would drink on the weekend. My boyfriend and I would get, a couple beers, maybe like 12 pack. We'd have some friends over. We'd have some Coke. We drank, and like that was it. Like, it was so like that's normal for a 20-year-old to do. You know what I mean? I went to work. I paid my bills. Everything was fine. I had 3 dogs. I had a cat. We had 2 cars. Like, life was good. From the outside. My boyfriend was a cheater. I was being cheated on for the entire 3 years that we were together. No matter, like, I would, and it just, I wanted to stay for comfortability. I really loved this guy. I really freaking loved him. But at the end of the day, when I was 23, my question I asked myself was, in 10 years from now, do you think you'll be happy if you're still with him? I am now 10 years past that. I would have been 33. And at my 33rd birthday, I looked at myself and said, I'm way happier now, even though I was struggling with addiction and battling with addiction. I was way happier. I've lived a way happier life now being removed from that relationship. So best thing I could have done. Stupidest thing I could have done right afterwards was jump into my marriage. I ended up marrying an active ism. Like, he's just a walking, talking ism for anything. If you can be addicted to it, he probably was addicted to it or abusing it in some sort of way. He had a beautiful mind. He had a beautiful soul, but the forefront most was the alcohol problem that he had. I did adopt from him the motto, if it's free, it's for me. Because seriously, drugs are expensive. Like, so if someone you offers you drugs, what do? You say thank you because they're expensive. Like, this is just like a common freaking courtesy, right? So I watched him do a lot of drugs that I didn't participate in. I dabbled with over-the-counter medicines like triple C's, Corazine and cough and cold. Pam, stop! I'm trying to have a conversation. I'm sorry, my cat is really yelling at me. He's in heat. He gets fixed next month. I cannot wait. Anyways, so my husband and I were together, and he was super needy. He would barely sleep. I think maybe he slept like 4 hours a night, and he wouldn't even come into the bedroom. And I was the only one working, and I was using Adderall and caffeine, like extended caffeine, to help me get through my day. I just remember my craziest day ever. I was probably about 24 years old. I had 16 shots of espressos, three Monster Energy drinks, over 300 milligrams of Adderall, and 2 pots of coffee. How my heart did not freaking explode, I do not understand. But if I tried to replicate that now, I would just drop dead. Like, I would just keel over. But that's how extensive it was. I couldn't even take a nap on the other side of the wall without this man, like literally codependent man, just depending on me. So my life, my health, my mental health, my sanity took a really big toll then. I think that it finally tipped off when my husband and his friend had smoked DMT out of my bowl, and it had a little small resonated piece in it. And the next day he had tried to clean it out as much as he could. And I had some sort of residual trip from this that caused me to have a panic attack breakdown at work. And I went to work, and I felt like I was walking through a dream. I don't know if it was sleep deprivation and all the drugs combined with each other or what was going on, but life just was not okay. And my one manager, who'd known me for a few years now, pulled me aside. I worked for Wegmans. I have no problem saying where I work for because I don't work there anymore. Awesome company to work for. Loved working there for them. I did get fired from there, though. Fully responsible for this. And so my manager pulled me aside, and we went in the back room, and that was the day that I broke down and was like, I want to kill myself. So we got me into counseling, we got me put on some medications. But again, I didn't believe I was an addict because I was just abusing Adderall. Like, I really didn't care about the other drugs. I really didn't drink that much. In the whole time of my life, besides my major blackout, I can count it 5 more times that I've had blackouts, 3 more times that I've had blackouts, 2 that were kind of like pushing it, and then I just went to sleep. So it's like, if I had been up, I probably would have been a little more extensive, but I knew I needed to go to bed. I would go to bed. So by 25, I was not happy in my marriage. It was coming up on our 2-year wedding anniversary. By the way, I got married on Halloween of 2009 in the cemetery. We had half people dressed up in beautiful, nice, fancy clothes, and half our guests showed up as Halloween. I told people it was up to them. Even our ordained minister came in full awesome garb. She was beautiful. I love her. So it was October of 2011. My husband finally had gotten a job after not having a job for like 8 months. The second time he didn't have a job. I didn't understand. I was over it. At that point, I cheated on him. I was over it. He was gross. He was disgusting. He was an addict. He wasn't giving me what I needed. I didn't know how to tell him I need to just leave you. And like, I was very codependent. And before my addiction came up, that's where my addiction was. My addiction was men and being codependent and just somebody to latch on to. So after him, I bounced around. So right after that, November 11th, 2011 was the day that I got fired from Wegmans. I did not show up for a shift. I was already on 6-month probation period. I didn't want to be there anyways. I look at it as the universe answered an ultimate thing that I couldn't answer myself, which I could have just quit. But I was too chicken shit too. Would have had an awesome job afterwards at Target working in Starbucks. Would have been a supervisor, went on early. I smoked pot. So I did not pass the drug test. So, but I did find a job within a month. By December 11th, I had a job at Tim Hortons in the next town over. And I got really mad at my husband at that point, just being like, well, screw you. You kept saying you're looking for a job. Obviously you weren't. I found a job within a month of getting fired. If I could find a job, you could have found a job. Like, it's not rocket science. It's a job. So I ended up with an ex-boyfriend, the one who I was with when I was in high school, when I had gotten drunk. Him and I stupidly ended up back together. He's also an alcoholic. We ended up back together for a little bit, finally left him, went back to the 3-year relationship. Again, really stupid here. I was so codependent. Went back to the 3-year relationship guy who had been cheating on me the whole time. Him and I finally broke up, and then I went with a new guy who was again an addict to cocaine. So by this point, I had tried smoking crack one time, and I just was like mind blown by it, but it didn't do anything for me really. So what it happened was I turned around and I just started doing cocaine. And I remember it was right after I tried crack, like for my first time. My boyfriend at that time, I was probably like 26, 25, 26. I was 26. So I'm 26 years old and I'm dating this guy and he's like, no, I just turned, hang on. Yeah, I just turned 26. So I was the summer of 26 and I had smoked the crack and I went home. I told my boyfriend about it. He didn't have a problem with it. I just found it. Like, it was in these kids like club house. I knew they were crack smokers. And I was like, yo, I found a stem. I found this. Like, let's just do it. And I did it. And like, hey, it worked for me. But I went home that night. I did like my first $40 worth of like cocaine to my face and like got that same high and was like, oh my God, like why I just wanted to do powder. So for a long time, I really just loved putting things up my nose. Like, if you could put it up a nose, you were putting it up my nose. That is where things were going. So I did a lot of damage. So I kind of bounced around with that relationship, and then I became a workaholic. I had 2 jobs and I would just spend money, and it wasn't on drugs. I still didn't want to believe that I was an addict at any point. Now talking to you guys, I'm realizing how much my isms are just all over. So I became a workaholic after working myself to the bone, where I was working 40 hours plus 30 hours. So all I did was work, sleep, work and sleep, work and sleep. Like, there was no time for fun. I ended up having a mental breakdown. And this was several months before my 30th birthday. I was working at McDonald's. I was 2 weeks away from being a manager in training. I was a manager, an actual manager. And I had a manager tell me to just shut up, and I lost it. And I thought about everything that I stood to lose by walking out of my job. But I also knew that my mom understood my mental health and knew that at that point I was kind of okay. And my better judgment, like the best of my judgment, was being used for this situation. I ended up leaving my job and starting the process of being on disability. So we knew it was going to happen. We knew it was going to be a while before I had money. So right before then, I dated this one kid who was into cocaine, and then I ended up dating his best friend, who was my 3-year cheater boyfriend's cousin. Really fucking funny there. Like, why would I date your cousin? So here I am dating this kid's cousin, and he's a nice guy. Like, don't get me wrong, really nice guy. He has the same birthday as my brother, which was kind of weird. I was like, yeah, I can't really date you. At the end of that. But I remember it being like Christmas and I'm losing my mind. Like mental health was just depleted, like just so bad. Like I was just going crazy. And I told him I'm gonna put myself in the psych ward. I'm gonna put myself in the psych ward. Like I was just visual, like seeing myself do things to myself. And it's like I can't. I've had suicidal idolizations. I've never been suicidal actions. So it's normally just all thoughts. But I know when those thoughts got as bad as they did when I was 29, that there's something like, I'm like, there's something fucking wrong with me. There's something wrong with me. I can't tell you what it is, but there's something wrong with me. And I did right before my 30th birthday, I did end up spending 4 hours in the psych ward. Luckily, I don't know, I've been dealing with my head for so long that they let me sleep in a dark room. And when I woke up, I was more angry than anything that they hadn't taken care of me. So yeah, on my 30th birthday, that same boyfriend bought me sausage McMuffin, not the one with egg, the one with no egg, because I don't like the one with egg. All I wanted that night was a six pack of beer. Like, how simple is this? 1 6-pack of beer, Coors Light to be specific, and a 20 bag of cocaine. Now, I literally walked away from $1,000 like a day crack cocaine habit. All I wanted on my 30th birthday was a 20 bag of cocaine and a 6-pack of beer. It doesn't seem very adequately to me, right? It was very shortly after that I ditched the boy and realized that I don't need boys. I just need drugs. Right? Codependent. So him and I broke up, and I ended up starting to get my disability money a couple months later. And now I have I think it was back money too. So like we got half of it. I got half of it. My mom got the other half of it in our bank accounts. We shared both halves with each other because it's my mother and she helped me, and that's what I do. I'm very I love my mom. But like, yeah, you're giving me like all this money. Wait for the $1,000 crack cocaine habit. It's coming. You gotta wait, okay? It's coming. It's near the end of my habit. All right, so now I'm on disability, and I'm at this point I just started doing cocaine all the time. I think in 1 year, so from 30 to 31, I went from like not ever buying coke, like to never buying it, to literally spending $700 like within like the end of the month. All my money was gone like by the beginning of the month. I worked I had delivered pizzas at night. I would deliver pizzas at night just to supply my gas and my cocaine and my cigarettes for the next day, and then I would just keep going and going and going. I did not have a job, so I needed to get by. I made my mark big enough in my new friend circle that like when I didn't have the money, that I could still get the drugs that I needed. It did become at one point after 31, I ended up meeting my biological father, and I went to meet him physically. It was not good. I didn't like it. So I came back home and I decided to just try and be everything that he wasn't. And then basically, I had quit doing drugs for a while and just went back to smoking weed. And I was a cam girl for a little bit. I have no shame about this. I was a cam girl for a little bit during that time also. But again, I still I was just a dry. I was just dry. Yes, I wasn't using my substance of choice, but I still wasn't doing anything to help myself. I wasn't in mental health. I wasn't engaging in correct activities, still hanging out with all these hippies who were doing drugs around me. I just didn't want to do drugs for a little bit. So I just thought I could do it. Sure, pure will, sure, my own great will. It took a while for me to go back, about 5 months, and then I went right back to my cocaine habit after my mom had put out a car loan for me, and then I crashed that car, and then my boyfriend had ended up getting a big lump sum of money from the accident we had. So I need a drink. So we got in the accident. He ended up getting like $16,000 for the accident. He broke his upper arm. It was really bad. I ended up nursing him back to health. He still remembers this. We were on again, off again for the last 4 years as well. He's one of my best friends. We've treated each other like shit in the process of it though. We're both addicts, so it only makes sense. But we love each other, we do. So he ended up getting this money, and then he ended up becoming my drug dealer. I don't know why I was buying drugs off of my boyfriend, but my boyfriend was like, at least I got a gram for $40 freaking dollars. I got wholesale price, so it worked. But yeah, so it just like eventually from there, it was shortly after that. So it was May of me being, let me think, I was 34 last year. So I was 33 at this point, and my stepdad, Mark, Mark, a little backstory, he was in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous my whole life. Like, so from the day I met him until the almost the day he passed away, all I knew was recovery. I didn't know he left the program at the end, basically. But so May, he gets diagnosed with he has a spot in his lung, and this woman across the street was like already giving us cocaine, and I knew she smoked crack, so I was just waiting for her to come up to me and be like, "Oh, you want to smoke crack?" So she's like, "Yeah," comes up to me and goes, "You want to smoke crack?" I was like, "Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I would love to smoke some crack with you." So this was my first bout with it. It was about 3 months. I did not do anything. I didn't do anything exciting in that 3 months. Really, it was just me. I just wanted to smoke crack. So I was just hanging out with the woman who smoked crack and would do all the dirty work for me. I didn't cook it. I didn't go get it. I didn't even pick up my tools. Literally, I was like, I'm not doing any of that. So 3 months, and I ended up having a kind of momentary spiritual awakening moment. And I just, stopped. My dad had, been given a clean bill of health. Everything was going to be great. I started moving forward in my life, kind of similar to how I have been now. But, I move forward. I end up in another toxic relationship with yet another addict. My dad ends up dying December 3rd of that year with no warning, just passes away. I did do cocaine that day. I did not go crazy. So now we're at how old am I now? I'm 34 now. Okay, so never mind. I was 32 when all of that happened. So now I'm 33. So now at 33, it's been 8 months since I've smoked crack. And in this time, I have smoked weed. I've done acid. I've still been doing drugs. I just, doing cocaine here and there. But nothing is literally getting me out of hand or making me feel like I have a problem with it. Like I did, before. I was doing 8 ball plus a day prior to this. So, yeah, my boyfriend at the time and I had break up. He ends up being toxic. We moved into his brother's house, his brother's girlfriend. His brother and his girlfriend kicked him out because I was the one with the job, and all he did was try and get me kicked out anyway. So they're like, bye. When he got kicked out, he caught wind that I was using cocaine again, and was like, "Oh yeah, you need to watch your problem, da da da." And I was like, "Yeah, holier than thou." I was like, "Why don't you fucking speak for yourself? Seriously, I'm fine. I'm gonna be okay. I understand what I'm doing with my cocaine habit over here." No, that's a no. I had no idea about my cocaine. No, that was a huge fucking lie. I thought I knew a whole bunch of shit that I did not know. So we break up. Within a month, I'm smoking crack again. Within a month of that, I've sold so many things that I didn't even give a shit about. I started selling pictures again, but this time for a different aspect. I started to sell my belongings, which I always said I would never sell my personal belonging. I ended up getting my bank account hacked, which my mom only found out about because the person had tried to hack my grandma's account and duplicate a check for $3,000. And she had to call me. And this is my disability money. So I'm not even supposed to have control over that money. Whoever, my mom's my pay rappy, she's supposed to be in control. So she calls me up and she's like, "Are you in trouble?" And I go, "Depends on what kind of trouble we're talking about. Because come on, I'm the black sheep. I'm always in trouble. What's new?" So I tell her, I was like, "Oh no, my bank account got hacked. I would never do that to my grandma." We ended up closing the account. My roommate's boyfriend, so the brother of my ex-boyfriend, doesn't want me to stay there, kicks me out. I've paid you rent for 4 months now, on time, always giving you my rent. There's no reason for you. They would have gotten that month plus the month after. They would have gotten everything because all it was happening is I had to just move my SSI money. So it was just going to be a delay in it. But no, he couldn't give me that. Karma got him. He's now back in prison because he got kicked out and went back down to Florida, but that's karma. So karma does work for me in my life. That's what I believe in. He did apologize for getting me kicked out, which was nice. I did accept that apology because, it does suck getting kicked out. But when I got kicked out, I got forced to live with this guy who, the one who I was in the car accident with and got the payout. Within the first 24 hours I moved into the house, I realized how much I fucking hated him. Yeah. And then I stayed there for 2 weeks. Um, I was stealing things from him, from his roommate, and I was making him go to work just to like get me crack. And I had paid for a few things for him, which he was being ungrateful about. I realized how much I just didn't want to be there. And I ended up cheating on him, and we were in an open relationship with his best friend, and I lied about that. His best friend and I ended up finding this slum house that had rooms for rent for like 300 a week, or $375 a week, 300 for the month, which is like dirt freaking cheap. Um, and I was like, yes, let's do it. We had our own separate, respectable rooms. We dated for 2 weeks. We broke up. He's a freaking scum. Like, he's just with scum. But he taught me about what prostitution meant. And I started becoming a prostitute, which I never said I would do. I think I have to tell this one story because I said I was going to tell this one story earlier when I said this. Okay, so there was one night this guy came over. Okay, not to mention he was not well endowed at all. He's a bigger dude, kind of gross. Made a joke with him the night before that he didn't have enough crack to sleep with me. Comes back over with a half freaking gram the next day. Like a half gram's going to do anything. Now this is the part where I'm like literally hustling so much money that I'm smoking like at least like five, six, $700 at this point a day, just like between me and my friends. So we would just sit there and smoke and smoke and smoke. And I went to smoking crack because my nose started being messed up. So now like I blew out my nose so much that like it just doesn't get me what I want. So at this point, like I was left with no other option to keep damaging my nose or go to the next best thing. Well, it's then the next best thing. So smoking crack became that. And yeah, and I just so this guy comes over my house, me as a little half gram, just like wants to, do stuff with me. And we're like there and we're doing stuff, and he gets all mad at me because now like the stuff is gone and I'm back in my phone and I'm trying to do my hustle. And I got to get my money because I have to continue to get high, because we all remember how it is to be out there and be high. And he starts getting mad at me. So we go out to go sell his Subutex. And I like, okay, listen, really for a real no, Suboxone blocks you from getting high. Subutex just gets you through until you can get more. Why? Like, don't understand the process of why people want Suboxones and not Subutex, to why we couldn't sell them. But that was our mission that night. So we go out to try and sell these Subutex. We do not sell these Subutex. We are coming back to the house. My buddy at this point who was with us had given me some heroin. It's like the most I've ever sniffed, because at that point I had just like been smoking a little bit of it. And he gives me this little bit, and this other guy who brought me the stuff and was like paying for my time starts yelling at me in the street about what a crack whore I am and this, that, and the third. And I turn around and I go, like, you're any fucking better. You brought me the fucking drugs to do exactly what you fucking wanted me to do. And then you're turning around calling me something like you didn't know what the fuck I was. I know what the fuck I am. Fuck you. Get out of my face. Don't ever come around me again. Because at that point, I just was not about to be belittled. My ex used to tell me that all the time. He used to tell me, I like you because you can still stand up for what you are. So shortly after this is when I started praying for recovery. I ended up moving out of that house that I was living in December 17th. I found a godsend of another toxic relationship, but he showed me a way of life that I never really knew I wanted, because I thought I was about to smoke crack for the rest of my life. December 17th of last year was the last day that I had like a big hurrah with crack. It was huge. It was just like this so much. And I was like, every prayer was answered apparently that day. But when I stayed with this guy, and he told me he didn't want me to smoke crack, but I could do cocaine. So I was like, okay, that's a fair trade. So I stayed with him. In January, I put myself into a rehab outpatient center. And I started to do that, and I tried to justify for several months why it was okay for me to be using the cocaine. And I'm like, I'm here because I was smoking crack. I don't want to smoke crack. I don't have a problem with coke. I don't even like coke. Okay, they're two different things. No, they're not. They're the same damn thing. They're both cocaine. They both start from cocaine. They both end in cocaine. Like, it just like the brain I had back then. So yeah. So basically, My sister passed away February 29th of this year from her addiction. She was a heroin addict and she was pregnant, 6 months pregnant. And I lost my mind. I was not in sobriety where I needed to be at all. I did get my boyfriend to get me crack. I did get him to smoke it, not him smoke it. I smoked it. He didn't want to do it. So I'm like, I'm not giving you. That was my big rule. If you had not done the hard stuff, I'm not about to do it with you first. Like, you do it first and then you can come back and you can talk to me. I had morals. Okay, people, I had some morals. But no, so I got him to smoke with me. I got my sister's best friend to bring it to the funeral, and so I could smoke at the funeral. I mean, like, to me, my sister and I still do get a good laugh out of the fact that I smoked crack in the funeral house bathroom while it was her. Like, that's my sister. Like, if anybody had known her, they would get a kick out of it. They would be like, she would have done it in mine. Okay. Like, if this roles were reversed. So it was like a little, like, that thing between me and her. But yeah, so that was February. Then there was March, where I was still using, and April 10th. That's my mom's birthday. My boyfriend and I had been fighting really bad at this point. I have a gash in my arm from where I fell through a door fighting with him. I had broken my hand. Because again, I like to fight men. If we weren't listening earlier, I like to fight men. I don't fight small, frail people. I just want to fight a man. Okay. The bigger you are, the better I want to fight you. I would get nowhere. Like, I just get nowhere on that. So I've learned that. But the bigger you are, I might fight you. So yeah, we fought a few times, and he got really bad with gaslighting. It got to the point where I kicked him out of my room. I very gently took his stuff and put it outside of my room. He kept telling me not to throw it. I was like, I'm not throwing it. I put a cigarette out in his face. He called the cops. The cops ended up getting involved. I do realize I shouldn't have put the cigarette out in his face, but get the hell out of my room, bro. So yeah, so the next day, which was my mom's birthday, he wanted the Wi-Fi password. The Wi-Fi password's on the back of the box, dude. Look on the back of the box. No, he just needed to get it from me. I fled my house. Like, it's my mom's house. I left my boyfriend and my mom and her fiance on my mom's birthday, left it, took my 2 cats, got the hell out of here, went and found some crack and smoked the shit out of it. And I went all the way to the other side. I live on one side of the city of Rochester. My friend lives on the other side of the city of Rochester. I joke, I'm on West Bumfuck. He's in East Bumfuck. So, like, that's my big joke. I love it. So I went from East Bumfuck to West Bumfuck. Well, my friend knew that I was an addict and was dealing with addiction to cocaine and crack, and I also knew that at this point when I came there that I wanted to be sober. I told them very honestly that I had gotten high before I came there. I did not have anything on me. Everything was completely gone. I wanted to just decompress, and I stayed a week there. And after the week, my boyfriend went back to New York City. My ex-boyfriend went back to New York City, and I went back home. That's when I really started my program of recovery. The next 3 months, I don't know how I did it without an actual 12-step program, but just July 3rd, I found a fellowship. That weekend, I found the fellowship that I'm in now. I didn't go to that until that Monday, but I'm a part of every single fellowship. If it has 12 steps, I'm working it. Okay. That's where I'm at in my sobriety now. I thank God every day that he brought me to the rooms and answered that prayer for me. Not only did he answer my prayer for a better life, which I thought was going to be me smoking crack for the rest of my life. No. Yeah. Man plans, God laughs. That's what happens. So no, he had way better plans for me. My stepbrother is actually the one who took me into the program. I'm so ridiculously proud of him. He has a year of sobriety that he just celebrated in November. I have 8 months today. He just graduated from his court program. And life is like really, 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 really like starting to become better. I have a sponsor. I work by steps. I'm on step 9. So I am making amends. My sponsor and I have both agreed that it is okay for me to put off my amends until after the holidays because it's a rough time already. There's no need to make it, any worse, but I have made some of my amends. So that was actually that was so amazing to me. Besides my 12-step program, I am in outside counseling. I have a mental health counselor. I graduated from my CD, my chemical dependency. I was so happy about that when I finally graduated. And yeah, I started a meeting for my 12-step program that I work here. We meet every Sunday in the Rochester area on Zoom. I'm hoping that after COVID, I have built up enough populace of the people in my area to come to this, because we do not have my anonymous here. just so like, you don't know my drug of choice. Yeah. So like, yeah, but we don't have that here. And I'm like, well, last I knew there was that everywhere too. Like, drugs are everywhere. Drugs are not just here. Drugs are there. Drugs are everywhere. I have formulated this amazing connection with a power greater than myself. Whether I can see them or not, they've always been there for me in my life and always seem to guide me in the direction that they've wanted me to go. I joke that I never really gave up on my higher power, but the relationship like my stepdad and I had, where you're not my real dad, don't tell me how to fucking live my life, is how I felt with my higher power. You're not my real higher power, don't tell me how to live my life. But it's so much easier when I just stopped fighting. When I stopped trying to go upstream and go against that current and that flow of life. I, in sobriety, had to put my cat down 33 days ago. He was my little baby cat. He was only just about 15 months old. It was a week. He didn't feel good. I knew he didn't feel good. On a Sunday, I woke up and his breathing was really bad. He had FIP, which is a feline coronavirus. And I'm surprised I'm not crying right now. I feel the tears wanting to come, but I loved him, I missed him, and I gave him the best life. But I also feel like he was a part of my higher power, that it came to me because he came to me right in the middle of an addiction, where I could have thrown myself into a lot far worse situations than I did. And he kept me safe, and he kept me by God's grace. And when his time was up, he needed to go back to be with my higher power. And you know, I don't think I would feel this way. You know, if you would, if I mirror image things from when my sister passed away versus my cat, who was my little, like, that's my what the hell's it called? My safety net. That's my safety blanket. Like, when I'm having a bad day, I hold my cat. Now who's going to hold me now that my cat's gone? If I can get through that and be sober, shit, think of like what more I can continue to do in my sobriety. I know that since then, in the last 33 days, I now identify across the board as an addict and alcoholic. My drug of choice may have been cocaine, but because my brain now knows we're not getting cocaine, my brain has tried to offer me other outlets, such as alcohol, which was the first one. It was like, why don't we just have a beer? And I'm like, why do we not have beer? I said, because we want to run from these feelings. I said, maybe we're an alcoholic. The next one was heroin, which was really crazy to me because there's such a bad heroin pandemic out there. And anybody who's like suffering from the heroin addiction, I feel for you. Like, I feel for you. Like, it's really hard. Addiction in general is hard. And, you know, when I was using heroin, that physical detox is just, oh, it's so shitty. I don't wish that on my worst fucking enemy. But yeah, so, I'm just really happy to be here in my program of like sobriety. I'm really happy that my friend brought me to Dopey Nation. Is she even here? Hang on. Yena. Shout out to you only because you're in here, girl. I love you, girl. She brought me here into this dopey awesome nation, and I love it. I love that, you know, no matter what anybody's doing and no matter where we are in our recovery or what recovery program we choose to have existed in our life, that there's one thing we all have in common, is that we all can recover from that seamless, hopeless state of mind. I don't know how it goes. Yes, I don't know how it goes. I'm still learning some of those slogans, but we all benefit from each other in addiction, by helping each other in addiction. And yeah, that's it. That's my story. I hope there was enough Corey clearing it for you guys. That was long.
You gonna watch the whole world go insane. See the lighters hit the rocks in the bushes like the stars are coming down like rain. Hear comes just a skin and